Welcome to Unapologetically You, an authentic journey to healing.
The podcast where we dive deep into the raw, real, and transformative process of embracing your true self.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ashley. Join us as we share stories, insights, and practical wisdom to help you heal, grow, and live unapologetically.
Whether you're on your own healing journey or simply seeking inspiration, this space is all about embracing authenticity without fear or shame.
It's time to make a move from your relationship
to a relation shift.
All right. So, Jenny, this is our first show. We're here. Finally doing it.
I know, after all this planning, right?
So it's been a year in making, pretty much, right?
Absolutely. And I feel like you had the idea long before we even really kind of started sitting down talking about it.
Yeah, I think it was been in the back of my mind. And then I don't remember what we were talking about or what conversation we got into.
We go out one night.
So this was formed over some wine.
Yes.
And some
deep talks.
Yes. And then we were like, oh my God, we need to do this. So
absolutely.
So here we are. And we let's talk about first what made us want to do this.
Yeah, I feel it, for me anyway, the draw was after you and I had talked about, starting a podcast on healing. The draw for me was how many different things in my life had happened, challenges, and just overcoming them.
Yep.
Gaining more resilience.
And you have this background in mindfulness and coaching and everything. So
absolutely. And have worked with, honestly, a plethora of women that, are on a healing journey. And I've worked with men too. I work with a lot of men more with meditation and mindfulness. And the one thing that I have really realized working with men and women is we all have emotions. I think we express them differently. Yeah. I do believe, though, that we all have very deep emotions. And I believe that, we all carry hurts and we all deal with grief.
Yeah. All different kinds of. So I think that's the one thing we've talked about is people hear healing. Immediately they think it's from a relationship.
Yes.
But we know that goes a lot deeper. It's really not even the outside sources. It all comes back to, and that's what we really want to hit home with, is self and kind of past things, how we have, and we talk about healing. We're healing from things from childhood on.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the main thing, is that it's more of a healing with yourself.
Absolutely.
And not so much from the outside sources.
It's so interesting you say that. I have different coaches that I have worked with. And I remember, maybe about 7-8 years ago, I had worked with a life coach, and she had said, and I thought this was so brilliant, it stayed with me, that what happens to us in childhood, we reenact in our adult life if we do not heal from it and we don't overcome them things.
Yes. Yeah. And I think for me anyways, and that was a big thing, I never wanted to look back and blame childhood, right? I didn't want to have this victim mindset, and it's
right.
Like how I grew up, like that was not going to be me, which then didn't allow me to get real honest with myself or work with myself to even begin the process of healing, because I just want to be like, that's not me. I'm fine. And there's nothing I need to heal from my past.
Right.
I think a lot of people do that.
And I think sometimes, and for some people, they are scared to look back because they're scared to feel those old emotions and the pain.
Yes.
Because when we do revisit different things in our life that had hurt us, caused us pain, it's painful sometimes to revisit. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and eventually, though, it rears its ugly head in the form of relationships, or if there's a death in the family, or loss of a friendship, or maybe within your, loss of a job. Something traumatic usually ends up happening that it brings it right to the surface, that you don't have a choice but to deal with it. That's when
You're right.
begin their healing journey. When something tragic has happened, that's when all of a sudden, like, you don't have the option to not have to face it.
Right? It's
So-
kind of like getting thrown into a cold shower.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
facing it.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no running from it.
Well, and that's what brought me to wanting to do this. So my big realization obviously came from a traumatic breakup, which we will talk about.
We've got the deets are going to kind of
stories.
trickle
Yeah.
out slowly.
Bad stories. But it was the first, like, I'd had breakups throughout, growing up, your teenage breakups, your breakups in your 20s, we've all had them. I think there was that one traumatic one, though, where it was like, I had to face all of the things that I didn't want to face. And I think that's going through that process for me was like, okay, podcast board.
Yes.
Need to talk about that. So,
But then you wonder, did that happen to you because this is your next step? This is you leveling up. I also, I work with a lot of clients who come to me that have a lot of heartbreak.
yeah.
But I also see in that heartbreak, they could take that pain and let that inspire them to take them to the next level in their lives if they allow themselves to see it as a gift.
Well, and that's it. You asked, did this happen to you? So I like to say this happened for me.
Yes, and
So
I
we
feel
could-
like it did.
Yes. So if people could start changing that narrative that you say to yourself, like, why is this happening to me? And this is a negative, which is very hard to do in the moment.
It is.
But
and it's hard to see that through when you're in so much pain.
Yeah. And because, again, you got to feel the pain. You have to go through it. But if you can realize by going through it that it's something that's happening for you, for a greater purpose, for what you're coming into next, it makes it a little bit easier. But again, and we'll talk about that in different shows, that training of your mind to get to that place doesn't happen overnight. Because remember,
It does.
this is from our
You're right.
past. We've spent, I'm 43. I'm 42. I'm 42. So-
You're making yourself older. Who does that?
Lord, I'm 42. For 42 years, I had told myself a different story. I'm not going to untell that story in a year, in a month. That's going to take time to be able
Absolutely.
to. Yeah. So that was something else that we want to talk about is healing is not there's not a timeline on healing. And a lot of times we go backwards, and that's where people want to stop because they're like, I thought I was healed. I'm not. Now I'm all in my emotions again. That's okay, right? Like that's
Because
normal.
it's layers.
Yeah.
Healing is layers.
Yeah.
I do want to mention a huge component to healing, I feel, is forgiveness. And I just kind of want to say, like, just a real
that's
quick
big-
little story
Yeah.
about me. When me and one of my ex-boyfriends, when we had broken up, again, for me, it was more of that traumatic breakup. And I had breakups before,
Yeah.
but this one just hurt differently.
There's always that one.
Yes. And I remember going to my parents' house, and it was summer, and I'm sitting on the back porch, and I'm bawling. I'm
The ugly cry.
crying. Yes.
cry.
And I mean, I am bawling. And my mom was just sitting there, and she's just basically staring at me bawling. And I'm like, I don't care if he ever calls me. I'm never answering again. I don't ever want to see him again. And in that moment, she looked at me and she said, Jenny, you have to forgive him. Even if you never want to talk to him again, even if you never want to see him again, this is going to go on until you forgive him.
That's
And
hard.
it was in that moment, though, that something inside me, when she said those words, it felt so right. You know when someone tells you something
So, like,
and you're like, man, like, that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
And when my mom said that, I swear I remember it like it was yesterday, and this was years ago.
Yeah.
And when she said that, it was like, I needed to hear that. And from that point forward, I pray. So I
Yes.
prayed for me to really seek forgiveness for that relationship.
Yes.
And that is when true healing began. And for
Yeah.
myself, I freed
For yourself. So
myself.
you were
It
holding
had
on
nothing to do
to-
with him. I
Yeah.
freed myself. And it was, and again, it was still baby steps and I was still hurt, but it was that was my pivotal point.
Yeah.
I pivoted
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yeah. Because you were able to start the process of letting go.
And forgiving myself,
And
I
forgiving
feel
yourself.
like.
Yeah, because
Because I made a lot of mistakes in that relationship.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just him. It
Well-
was things I needed to look at. And again, that's hard.
And clear and experienced mind can say that. In the moment, we're like, it wasn't me.
Right.
I'm
I
not
can't
the
stand
problem.
him. Yes, that's what I mean. That was how I started that
Yes.
morning. I can't stand him. I'm never picking up the phone if he calls. You know, it was all him.
Yeah.
And when my mom said that, it was that shift.
Yeah. The shift of taking a little bit of accountability for you too, a little bit of letting go, and just maybe understanding how to find peace in this.
Yes, and also looking at him and his flaws, not as a negative thing, but as just, again, that seeking to understand. Understanding, you know what? He didn't mean a lot of those things either. It was just the place he was in.
Right. That's a big thing.
And it's hard. That's a hard, and I'm not acting like it was easy, but that was the start of a true healing journey for me. And now I try to, it's hard, but when people hurt me, again, I have hurt people, you know, I try to look at it where you do need to seek first to understand.
Yeah.
Because it's where we're at in the moment.
And you said that was the start of your true healing. It was the start of the healing, because now you know, going into things which are inevitably going to happen, there's going to be more heartbreak. There's going to be more things that throw you off track from your healing. But now you have this foundation of, this is where I know I need to start in order to get through this pain that I know I'm going to feel.
That's when I actually started at least feeling a bit of relief from that hurt.
Yes. Yeah. A little bit of a piece of the heart is put back.
Yes, that's actually, it's interesting we're talking about this, because that's actually then shortly thereafter when I started finding more of that peace and that letting go is when I started the single mom empowerment group.
Yes, I remember that.
So again, that pain almost started inspiring me.
Well, it started back. So that started, and then you have the book, and then the meditation classes, which I think that's how you and I ended up connecting.
It is. Absolutely.
Which, again, I was going through, same person, another bit of a breakup. And part of what I needed to do in that part of healing was the meditation and that mindfulness. And I sought you out. I think it was recommended from somebody. Don't know, but I remember that was
many years ago. Really, if you think about it, that was many years ago we connected for the first time.
People, I was healing back then too.
I can't believe it was that long. I mean, when I think about it, though, I can't believe it. It was that long ago. I would say 5 to probably about 5
years ago. Yeah. So that's where I think it started for me. Where it was I had to find a way to release and let go and find a bigger connection within myself, which we'll talk about, because that's a big thing.
That's what our show is really about. Finding you, coming home to yourself, really.
Yeah. And it worked. Like, I felt better than I ever had. But again, inevitably things happen again and you get thrown off. And I remember being like, I was really healed back then. Like, I was healed. I was good. I was healed and I was on my way. And that's not really how that works. I was on my healing journey and I was good, but completely healed. Are we ever?
I don't feel like we ever are. And another funny story. I was dating this guy, and I remember we're walking, and he says to me, we're talking about life.
Yep.
And breakups and just grief in general.
Yes.
And he looks at me and he says, "Oh, have you ever read The Untethered Soul?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, of course. I love that book. I had to read it for part of my yoga training." That was actually part of our training, was reading The Untethered Soul. So I said, "Yeah." I said, "Have you?" And he said, "Oh yeah, and now I'm all healed."
You're like,
as soon as he said that, I mean,
were you
yeah. But I mean, it was like cringe in that moment, because I'm thinking, if you think one book is going to heal you, sweetheart, like, you are sadly mistaken. But when he said that, it
was so confident.
Mic drop. I was like,
Jenny almost fell in the sand. She was like, "What?"
I don't even think I
in the sand. I just
fun.
Were you walking on the beach? Were you on?
No, actually, we were on a sidewalk. We were like in his town. He didn't live here. We were on a sidewalk. But when he said that, and I'm not kidding you, Ashley, he was dead serious.
Yeah.
He didn't even, he was not kidding either. One book. He said, "I'm all healed now."
I just want to know your secret, man.
And I thought,
everybody's going to go out and get Untethered Soul now and be like, see if it has the same impact. But here's the thing. That's the problem. People go, just like I thought, I'm going to do the meditation mindfulness and I'm going to be healed. That's it. I'm on my way. Because it felt good. And I go to
for
it resonated.
sure.
People do that with books, with exercise. I'm going to go to the gym, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds, and whatever. I'm healed. Well, again, life happens and you find out real quickly you're not. Not that you haven't taken steps and you can handle now situations better.
Right.
But completely healed, no.
You become more resilient.
Yeah.
But I think healing is like anything else, an ongoing journey. If you're living and you're loving and you're taking chances, you are always healing.
Yeah.
And I think healing's layers. Like I notice just with myself, I'm with you. When you're in this great place and you're feeling empowered and you're feeling so good, and then of course life happens, so something happens in your life, and it knocks you. So, but I think then you're reaching a different layer, but really you never go back to square one once you start this journey. Does that make sense what I'm saying? No, you're never going to go back to the beginning.
Right. And if you do, you missed it.
You're right.
So when we go back and we start doing the same patterns and we start allowing the same people in our lives and we get right back into because that's again, a lot of times what people do is I'm feeling good. If it's a relationship, I'm going to jump right into the next one. And it's usually the same type of person you were just with. And so
just a different face.
And so we keep on doing the same things. The trick to starting healing and continuing on that journey is, unfortunately, you have to make some changes. You have to be real honest with yourself about why you're picking the people that you're picking, why you're doing the things that you're doing, why you're putting yourself in situations that you're putting yourself in. And along the healing journey, sometimes you lose people that you did think were really close.
You do.
Yeah. And I think that's the part where it requires a shift.
It does. It does.
You don't want to do that. And so if you look around and you're like, I read one book and I'm healed, or I did some meditation and I'm healed, but you're still around the same people, doing the same things, dating the same guy.
Yes.
Then you're not healed. You didn't even start. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. And it goes back to, you mentioned exercising. And sometimes you're right. Like people will exercise and they'll go on a diet and then they're where they want to be.
I'm exercising, Jenny, it's because I want to look good to go back.
Right, so you got this goal. And so how many people do that? They get where they want to be. They look good and then they stop, right?
Yes.
And when you stop exercising, what happens? You start to put on weight. You start not feeling good. You start not looking as good. So I feel like healing modalities are the same thing. Like if you stop, so whether it's, meditation, prayer, exercise, because exercise is a great to move those emotions out of the body. So if you're not using these healing modalities, whatever works for you, I always say it's a cocktail that works for people, but whatever works for you, if you're not using it consistently, then you're right. Then you are going to stay stuck in where you are right now.
Yeah. And we like to ignore that.
Consistency is where it's at.
It is. Yes. And it's, again, the shift that you'll hear us say a lot throughout this is going from where you are at and moving into a better place. And the other thing that I want to mention so because you said prayer. So I'm the same. My faith, my outlet is praying into God. That's not the same for everybody.
Right.
So it's more like whatever your source is, universe, God, whatever that
Absolutely. Something outside of you, though.
You've got to have a faith and a belief in it, that there is a outside source that's going to push you through this process. That's important, I think. I need that. I think, right? Like, I think people need that.
Well, research has actually shown that as humans, when we believe in something outside of ourselves, you heal quicker.
Yeah.
You are able to move on quicker from things. Forgiveness comes easier. Again, forgiveness isn't easy, but it comes easier. When, you just depend on yourself and really don't see something bigger than you, then I think sometimes it is harder to make sense of maybe what's going on. And trust me, there's things that happen in my life and it's hard for me to make sense of it. But that is when, again, I lean in to my faith and believe that these things are happening for me. It's
Right.
part of the greater plan,
It is.
if you will.
It is.
And you
Yeah.
and you don't, and it doesn't always make sense, though.
No, it does not in the moment. It really doesn't.
It
And
doesn't.
It's so hard to be able to look ahead because in the moment, and I remember saying to myself just a year ago, and people are like, "It's going to be okay. Everything's good." I did not want to hear it. In fact, the people telling me that you'll get through this and all's okay. That I get what they were trying to do, but I remember this conversation I was having with one of my aunts, and I remember saying to her, I'm like, this, like, I was crying, and I was saying to her, like, this sucks. Like, this just really sucks. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to go through this, right? Thinking she's going to have the magic answer for me.
Right.
Right? Like, take it away.
Right. I
Say
think we
something
always think
tell
that,
me
right?
what
Yes.
exactly to do that takes it away so I don't have to feel this. And she's just like, it does. It does suck. And I'm like, and what's the rest of it? She's like, gotta go through it.
And it's so, right? That's so true.
Gotta
But
go
that's
through
hard to hear when you're in it,
I
right?
didn't want to hear. I think I cried even harder because
And
I'm like, what?
Because it is. It's so hard to hear when you're going through it because I'm with you. You just want that magic pill, that snap of the finger just to bring you out of that pain.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work that way. And sometimes you think you're out of a painful,
yeah.
and then it comes up, something else triggers it.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, truly. And you have to also be easy on yourself when that happens.
Yeah, give yourself a little grace because I think in that, so because we don't want to feel that pain and we don't want to move through it and all the stages of it, because again, we expect that it might just last a day or two. And people that say, no, I was over it in a week, I don't believe you.
I don't either.
Bullshit.
Yeah, no,
because
I don't either.
it's not, again, not the way that it works. I think you've told yourself that you're out of the pain. But you really just have to, there was, keep going off on tangents, but it said that people are like, don't listen to sad songs. Don't put don't watch sad movies. And then there was, I think it was John Tesh. I'm not going to lie. I think I was,
Wait, John Tesh Radio?
99.9 FM and John Tesh is still on.
Sounds the same.
Oh my God, he always talks about the different facts and things from different whatever. And he was on there being like, listen to the sad music, watch the sad movies, cry because the releasing in the crying is the releasing of the pain. It's your body's
Yes,
way
I love
of
that.
releasing the pain. So why do we stop ourselves from crying and having that full hands and knees on the floor, just letting it out? Because your body needs to do
Yes, but I will tell you why. Because it goes back to our childhood.
Yeah.
When we were young, people, I don't know about you, but my parents would say, stop crying. It's
Girls
okay.
would as a
Stop
child,
crying,
stop
right? So as adults, we look at crying and sadness and anger as negative.
Yeah.
When really that is just our moral compass. That is our body's way of telling us, hey, you're sad right now.
Yeah.
And then instead of asking yourself, what do I need right now? We beat ourselves up for feeling
Yeah.
like that.
Like, look at you. I can't believe you're
Yes. Oh my
crying.
gosh, you're still crying.
Yeah. Or people say to you, you can't stop being mad. You don't get to be mad about it. Well, yes, I do get to be mad. Right now I'm mad about
Absolutely.
it. Right now I'm angry. Like,
And I'll be honest with you. You know, I had lost my dad.
Yes.
It hasn't even been a year yet. But
Yeah.
honestly, I think what's really helping me now, granted, oh my gosh, I miss him like crazy.
right. And a price
And
sneaks up
there
on
are
you.
days
Yeah.
where I find myself crying. I could be doing the dishes and I start crying.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is now I just allow myself to feel into it. Again, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not that I like it,
Yeah.
but because I'm allowing myself to really feel into it, or if I feel angry about,
Yes.
losing my dad, normal emotion when you lose somebody you love,
Yeah.
I say to myself, that's normal and it's okay.
Instead
It's
of-
part of a human emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what's also helping me, though.
Because you're letting it out.
Yes. And I think that's also helping me, like, connect with the beautiful memories I have of my dad. I think
Yeah.
if I wasn't allowing myself to feel those
You wouldn't allow
emotions,
yourself to remember.
I
those
wouldn't
things.
allow myself to also, like, how about the beautiful moments I had with him? So I think when I release those emotions, I can start seeing the positive of the time I had spent
Right.
with my dad and the gratitude I have for having him here with
Yeah.
me for
You
all
can
those
start
years.
to look at it in a different way. You
Yes.
can start to feel better about him not being here anymore.
Yes. And exactly. And looking at it, like you said, in a new perspective.
Well, I always this analogy. Think about, and I don't know if you do this. I know when the stomach flu is coming on, and you know that feeling before you throw up, like your stomach hurts, you know it's coming.
Your body feels achy, like
Yeah, you're like, oh man, and you're just like, you're waiting for it. You're waiting for it. And people sometimes are like, just make yourself throw up. Just do it. Just throw up. And you're like, I don't want to. I don't want to feel it. I cry.
like on those drunken nights too, when they're like, just make yourself. You'll be feel better.
Right, but you don't want to because you hate throwing up. You hate what it feels like. You hate the dry heave. You hate the point where like the dizziness, like that whole feeling of actually.
It's awful.
It's awful. But once you do it, once you throw it all up, then all of a sudden you're like, God, I wish you just done that sooner instead of suffering
so much
for
better.
the last,
Yeah,
like,
and I love
15
that
minutes.
analogy, but it's true.
It's the same thing. Cry, be angry, yell, scream.
Absolutely.
Whatever you need to do, get it out, because the more you keep that down, and it's going to come out eventually, it's going to be worse and you're going to feel worse. So let it out.
Absolutely. And be grateful that you're able to feel those emotions. You know, another thing I think that goes on with a lot of people is they numb out.
Yes.
They use distractions, not healthy distractions.
Yes.
You know, there's a quote, and I might not be quoting it exactly, but it's from the Buddha that says, everybody has an addiction, just make it a healthy one.
Ooh, I like that. So true.
Yes.
So true.
And
Buddha.
I know. That guy
You did it
definitely
again,
knew what was
Buddha.
up. But how many times do people use unhealthy distractions?
Always.
To numb it,
I think
because
there's more.
they don't want to feel
Whatever they can grasp easily,
Yeah.
which seems to be sometimes unhealthy things,
Yes.
is what they will do, a quick fix.
absolutely for the moment. But then those quick fixes make you feel worse.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
do. They never work.
Yeah.
Maybe temporary,
Temporary.
but they really never work.
Temporary. And then
In the long haul, they don't.
No.
They have
And
more
you see-
problems sometimes.
Yes, especially if your quick fix, which was mine many times, was jumping into another relationship, right? This one made me feel shitty. I want to jump into this one so I can feel good again. Never thinking, hey, you have the power to do that yourself.
Yes.
It's not the responsibility of this person, because inevitably that person's going to fail and you're going to blame them. They can't be your source of happiness. I didn't know that. So
I think a lot of people, we learn that,
We
right?
learn that,
As time
yes.
goes on.
Now, there are some shitty people out there. Let's be real.
And there are people that
Yes.
are incapable of love. I mean,
Incapable
we
of-
have to
yes.
also,
Let's be real about,
you know, and this is men and women. There are
Yes.
men and women who are incapable of love. They're truly, I mean, that's hard to believe, but it's true.
There's a deeper healing thing that is well past this podcast that we can't even get into, but no
A whole
amount
different kind of
of
fuckery. Like we kind of talked about.
we came out like, what is your level of fuckery? What are you?
There's all levels of fucked up,
There is.
right?
Yeah.
And you just got to be with somebody that's on your level
your
of
level.
fucked up.
Yes. And so you can live happily. Fucked up.
Another thing, you know what? You know, we always look at people's good qualities,
Yes.
which is great, and
Yes.
you should. But look at like some of their flaws and just ask yourself if you could live with their issues, because at the end of the day, when you're with someone after a long period of time, that's all you do see.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
almost got to make sure you can live with
Yes.
somebody's issues.
Yeah. What's your toleration level?
Yeah. Your
What are-
boundary.
yeah.
Right.
What's your boundary? What are you willing to accept? And again, not just everybody thinks the person, I'm going to marry that person. Well, really look at 40 years down the line, and can you deal with some of their habits and some of their things that you're not necessarily like a fan of.
Well, right. And I mean, let's hope after 40 years it's still hot. But I mean, let's all be honest that when you're with somebody, it's all, you know, that
Yeah. Well,
a lot of
that's a lot of
steaminess going
yeah,
on.
right at
But
the
then as that
beginning.
steaminess starts to kind of fade, you're like, anywho.
I don't know if I like you. So
But
yeah.
it's true though, right? So
Yeah.
you have to be comfortable enough to be able to live with somebody's issues. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, we have issues, you know, and
have
them
issues.
ours. Absolutely.
So I always say I need to be loved and assert. I know how I need to be loved based off of, again, childhood, what I was lacking, my capabilities, and still my journey of being able to love myself. So there is a certain way that I know I need love from somebody else. And so I have to be real and finding that and not trying to force somebody to love me in that way.
Right.
Because they're not always going to be capable of loving me in that way. If you could find the person that gets you, that understands your triggers or where you're at, finding that person. And again, it's probably not the person that you envisioned or picture perfect man or woman that you thought that you were going to be with. It's usually going to be the person you least expected it. The person you're like, you're it. You're the one that
kind
gets
of creeps in.
Creeps in. You're like,
yes.
oh,
Isn't that true? You're right. It's almost like always the unexpected people that sometimes you end up, really loving and forming a relationship.
Yeah. And again, that's
interesting.
That's friends. That's your partner. That's whoever it is.
Yes.
Like, it's the least expected person you thought you were going to connect with because you had this image over here based off of unhealed characteristics that you have within yourself. You created this person over here, and it is nowhere near who's actually the right person
Absolutely.
to be in your life.
Interestingly enough, though, when you had brought that up, because I had read somewhere, and I can't remember where, that so if you have this person that you want to attract, bring into your life,
Yeah.
So for us, a man, if you what kind of qualities in that person, do you have those qualities? So if you
Yes.
if I want a man that's honest, integrity, has good integrity, great character,
Your core
morally
values.
sound. Well, I have to make sure that I'm living that
true.
kind of life.
That's
And
true.
that is so true. If that's what you want in someone else, then really that's who you need to become.
Yeah, that's very true. I think a lot of people we set these expectations for people. Like, I want you to look gorgeous. I want you to be fit. Meanwhile, you're here eating a Big Mac.
Right.
You're
are
not
you holding
doing-
yourself,
yeah.
right? That's I get you.
Yeah, if you're not doing the same stuff, forget it.
Right.
I remember looking at the wrong characteristics of what I think I need. I need that person to bring me back down to zero. And sometimes I think we miss that
Absolutely.
because we're not looking at what matches us best.
And what truly really matters.
Yeah.
I know for me, I have made the mistake. I'm a very passionate person. So when
Yes.
I meet somebody, I want to feel
Same.
that chemistry, that
Yes.
strong chemistry. I want to feel that passion between us, as in you know what I'm talking
a
about,
movie.
that fire.
I want my movie moment.
Yes, I want to feel that fire. Well, what I have noticed, the men that I do feel that way with
Yep.
aren't necessarily good partners, if you will. So the
Correct.
problem is what happens is then I will date, let's say, one of those men that I'm feeling something like
Yeah.
that for. And I realize they don't have the qualities that I want. But the problem is sometimes that chemistry and that
Hard to break away
passion
from.
overshadows who they really
Yes.
are. And again, I think you need the chemistry. I'm not I
think there
need
always
that.
has to
I
be
need that
some
spark.
sense
I
of-
need
yeah,
that chemistry.
yeah.
But I think you also need to take a step back and look at really what are the qualities? Who is this person?
Yeah.
What is their character?
And usually our intuition knows this.
Oh, I
right off
love
the
that. That's
bat.
so deep. But you're
Yeah.
right.
It knows. You usually know. Everybody's like,
You
"Well, I
do.
don't know." You know, usually within the first 5 minutes about some. I mean, I totally
Oh.
believe that.
Absolutely.
I have ignored that because again, that passion or that chemistry was so intense, and I'm like, I'm running with this. This feels better.
Yes.
Because I didn't want to have to admit in so many relationships past, that's all it was.
We need a show, honestly, just on intuition
Oh, we
because
will.
I feel like
Yes.
intuition is such a powerful thing,
Yeah.
but we don't always listen.
Right.
As humans, we
No.
just don't.
No.
We try to
We shut it up.
rationalize it.
Because we sit there too, and I think we question it too.
Yes.
I think there's so much
We do. I know I do all the time.
like
Is
question
it just me? Am I scared? Am I? Oh, yeah.
Like, am I just? I sometimes think about, is this just influence from what I might have heard from somebody else, or from maybe something I watch? Like, is this really my real thoughts?
Yes,
Is this
you're
like,
right.
I don't ever know. Like, I question it a lot, and then it's kind of like that voice that you hear. That's you.
And your higher, but speaking of, you and I, how we
Yes.
pray and, I meditate a lot. And so to me, that voice is the voice of, your higher power, if you will.
Yeah. that we
guiding you.
like to shut it up a lot. I mean,
Because it's not what we want,
not what
right?
we want.
So sometimes we want to quiet that voice because maybe we want something
I'm gonna
that
make
that
it
voice
work.
is saying,
I know. And what you end up realizing is years go by of you getting what you want, and then you after after you realize, and something again, usually it's big and traumatic happens, then you're like, I wasted all that time. I can't believe I wasted all that time. And you're like, girl, you did that to yourself. Nobody did that but you.
hence the, being mad at yourself, finding the forgiveness with yourself.
Yeah. To say, made a mistake. I didn't listen to myself. I should have.
Absolutely.
And not putting the blame so much on the other person as much. Like, you're in it too. You're part of it too. You at any point, like, you saw
and it's
the red flag
funny
shit. Like, you saw it.
when you say about intuition too, because sometimes it's like so quiet, but then I think when we ignore it, it becomes loud.
Screaming at
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think those are the moments where it's like when you're sitting there and something, should I not be doing? Like when you really sit down, like, should I get out of this relationship, or is this not the job for me? Or is this, do I need to step away from this family member for a while? When you know and you're asking yourself that, if you're asking yourself that,
Absolutely.
you should probably be.
And, it's funny we're talking about relationships, but how about even careers?
Yes.
And a lot of people I work with feel very stuck in their career.
Yeah.
But the truth of it is they're stuck in their career because they're rationalizing, well, the money's good.
Yeah.
So I should stay. But again, it's that voice that's saying, no, like
It's not worth
it's
it.
time to make a shift.
Yes. And that shift we're usually in fear of, because we don't know what the consequences are. We don't know what's going to happen. So we'll continue to stay, well, at least I know what it is over here. At least I know what this feels like. At least this is familiar to me. Taking that shift is very unfamiliar and very scary. So people don't do it. And then you miss out on so much, or what could have been.
Yes.
Again, until something inevitably goes
And it
wrong,
happens.
and
You're right. And it
forces you to
happens.
do it. It will always, God, universe, whatever, usually it's going to come to a head at some point, and you are going to be forced to make whatever move it is that you won't make. You're going to be forced to do it
Absolutely.
because you're on a path that's predestined for us.
It's like the cold shower. You can't ignore it. Like at first it might make you shiver, but you can't ignore it. It's,
People that take cold showers, they so much after so many of them, they get used to it. Like, I got this.
But okay, I love that analogy because let's be honest, I don't know about you. Like for me, now when I get those nudges or a challenge in my life, I'm so used to it now. And I'm talking with anything. With my career, a relationship, family stuff. I don't care what it is, my kids. When I am faced with a challenge now, it's still a challenge.
It is.
But I'm so used to these detours and these challenges that I can honestly say I have more resilience to be able to handle them. And I look at them also as a way to grow me.
Well, right. So you might.
So it's the cold shower. You start getting used to it.
You start getting used to it. And
it's there.
You might fail.
Oh, hell yeah. You're going to. You're going to.
You might get in another messed up relationship. It's going to happen. You might leave your job and go to the next one, and it is the worst job ever.
Right.
Keep going.
Right. You might try to open your own business and you fail, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of, now I know with this podcast we are more going towards healing, and speaking of healing though, I feel like as you really become on a conscious healing journey, you do become more courageous to make moves. Can you agree with that though?
Throwing yourself into the fire, like
yes. Like can you almost like get almost comfortable with a little bit of the uncomfortable when you're on this kind of journey.
Yes. There's part of me now, like, even if the relationship I'm in now fails, I'm not scared of that ending anymore because I already know what that pain feels like. And I know that I got through it.
Yes.
And
you'll get through it again.
So, so if it happens again, I expect it would hurt. But I also know I'm going to get through it. And what's on the other side of that is better.
Right.
So
it's not going to break you.
No. So that took, again, many years to get to. But I think once truly starting that healing journey of understanding myself, the strength that I have within myself, the belief that I can bring myself through that, now I can keep going with it. I'm not going to make the same mistakes again. I'm not going, and again, that's what I said. I know now I'm truly on that path, because before I found different things to quickly get me out of the pain and not acknowledge it. And
the distractions, the numbness. Yes.
Yeah. And so I spent many years repeating the same patterns and the same habits and not really telling myself, again, I read a book, I'm healed. Yeah. I didn't. So
Untethered Soul.
Yeah. Untethered Soul. Everybody go get that book. So now I know, though, it's a different shift. It's a different feeling and a different way of going about things in life. But I think, bringing it back around, it has to start with acknowledging where it comes from, where that pain that you're healing from, because everything that we are healing from, so again, whether it's a loss, whether it's a relationship, friendship, whatever it may be, it is something within yourself. It's a reflection. So the person that you're with, or the thing that you're trying to heal from, is just a reflection of what isn't healed from your past.
They say a mirror. Is that? Yes. That's what.
Yes, which is totally true. So my last relationship, I had all the, this person was this, and this. It was almost a mirror, though, of also how I was. How I didn't want to see the things that were not healed within me, and how I hid those things, and how I didn't want to deal with them. And so it was kind of like, oh man, it was a big awakening of being like, I do have all of these things over here that I do have to acknowledge, that do shape the decisions that I make. And some of that was offering forgiveness to people in my past that I subconsciously was blaming for that.
Right.
And again, like I said, if you can't start there with forgiveness, I don't think that I could truly put then those feelings to rest.
Right. Forgiveness is huge in healing, and forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
It's because when we don't want to forgive and we're just casting blame, it literally is poison to your body.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And emotions are a real thing that gets stuck in the body, and they manifest as pain, not just emotional pain, sometimes even physical pain.
Illness. Yes.
Illnesses. I mean, dis-ease, right? They call it that for a reason.
Yes. They say that you really have the power to heal your sicknesses and things inside of you, because it is your stress levels and your emotions that you're not letting out that you are making you to that point of being physically ill. So I think sometimes that's where I know with that meditation and mindfulness, it allows you to kind of just sit with yourself.
It does. And again, even people I work with, I tell them, people think that meditation, you're going to meditate and it's consistency. It's not going to help.
Yes.
You're going to feel better after you meditate after the first time, but it's the consistency.
Yeah.
But what I have also, I tell people I work with, is it doesn't always feel good. Even now, I'll be honest with you, there are mornings, I meditate every morning. There are mornings I meditate, and afterwards I might feel a little more jittery or nervous, but that is my nervous system kind of regulating itself, because there are some things that I need to let go of. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Again, it's these modalities of healing aren't always going to make us feel great.
Right.
But the one thing they will do is take us to our next level of healing. Does that?
Yes. Which, and like you said earlier, because it's layers, and I think, we've talked about before, and you agree, it's a process from the time of we're younger, I think, through the time that we end up passing.
Yes. Yeah.
We're healing in this entire time from things.
You're right. Absolutely.
I learned, because things change. And again, as much as you want to say no, I looked back at the things that I needed to heal from and I healed them. It's not that easy. It's not that, I can offer forgiveness, and that's part of it. But then there's, again, changing the way that you do things and how you accept things and let go of things is hard when we've built years and years of habits that told us not to do that.
Absolutely. And healing isn't linear. It's not black and white. It's not linear.
Right.
So it's almost what you said too in the beginning. There's no timeline. You can never put a timeline. We're always healing, but even on a breakup or when somebody passes, or, even if you're leaving a job, because that's even a loss. There's no timeline on when you're going to feel like yourself again or feel better.
Yeah.
You just have to allow yourself that time and space to heal and be compassionate with yourself.
And we wanted to stress too that this wasn't just because I think a lot of people hear healing or something on emotions and they think it just pertains to women.
Yes.
But if anything, like it's like men hear this because I think a lot of men are guilty of putting their emotions down because it's not the manly thing to
Suppressing, yes.
so they probably suppress more. Women are naturally emotional.
And we call each other and we're
getting our shit out one way or another. We're talking to somebody.
So true.
Men don't. They think they have to be strong. And if a man cries, I know some men that cry, but like, I think that it's probably harder for them to get on this healing journey because they're not naturally built to do the ugly cry at the kitchen sink.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Call a friend and, like you said, just have a good cry.
yeah.
Or, with women, we'll have cry over a glass of wine or coffee or whatever. And we're there to confront or console each other.
Right. So I think one thing that we want to is this podcast is for men as well to be able to listen to, and you're part of that. I mean, everybody's part of this same healing journey.
Absolutely.
And
we all have deep emotions.
Right.
No matter what.
Right. And there's nothing to be ashamed about, or there's nothing to be, and again, this is part of why I liked our name, Unapologetically You, is because when you're going through the healing journey, it's messy and it's ugly. And sometimes you're not your best self and you're not your best person. And we think, and people call you out on that and they're like, what's wrong with you? Or, some people get mad at you as you're changing or you're shifting. And it's really about being really, I'm very unapologetic about how I chose to heal. The things and the distance that I put between people or what I need to do to continue on that healing journey. I'm unapologetic about how emotional that I was, how sensitive because people want to make you feel bad about that.
Right.
I'm not sorry.
Or to give
for
them a
that.
timeline. You should be feeling better by now.
Yeah, get over it. Get it together. You have this.
My
and
gosh,
this
you're
to
still
do.
a mess, or
Yeah.
all those things that people hear. That you hear when you're like still in heartbreak of any sort.
And this will be our first swearing moment. I give a really big fuck you to those people. Stop apologizing. I spit. Stop apologizing for how you are healing. Now, don't go out and be nasty to people or do things that you are, wrong. But don't apologize for how you choose to heal.
Absolutely. And be yourself. Be authentic, the real you. Because again, we hide behind masks because we're afraid of being judged.
Yeah.
So people say, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing great.
And you're not.
And you're not. It's okay not to be okay, though.
How are you doing? I was like, shitty, Jenny. Shitty.
So when the random person's like, how are you? Fucking shitty. That's how I am. So fuck you. I mean, I know you feel like saying that sometimes. Maybe that's not like a good idea. But again, you don't have to always hide behind a smile.
No.
Truly. Especially with the people you're close with your circle. You don't have to hide behind a smile. Let people in. That's also the start of healing, when we allow people to help us, to be there for us, to console us.
You need to hear.
Yes.
Who's going to be
I learned that too, even after, losing my dad, like just allowing people to be there for you.
Yeah. You don't have to be this.
That's healthy.
Yeah. Yes.
And it does help you heal.
Yeah, it really does.
It really does.
So that's the thing. People don't, when you're healing from something, I need to rest and I need to just lay in my bed. I need to cry. And then people have a negative view on that. Like, get out of bed. What are you doing? Your body needs to rest.
Exactly. Again, the body stores the emotions.
Yeah. Like, I watched so much reality TV on my couch with my bag of chips in my wine for a good couple months, if not longer, right? Like, and I had this guilt that it was like, what are you doing? This isn't a healthy healing. I should be at the gym, or I should be
shooting yourself.
Shooting myself.
You were shooting yourself.
Not shooting.
We're back.
Oh my God, shitting myself. Oh my God. I
But
shouldn't
we
have
do
been.
that, right?
I
To
was
our set, like, again, it's the beating yourself up.
Yeah, like it was okay to. That's what I needed.
Right.
I felt good doing that. 'Cause
Right.
I hadn't been allowed
You're
to
really
do that. Like,
honoring yourself
Yes.
by doing that.
yes. So I feel like we tell ourselves we can't do, like, again, like people, if they say, why are you on your couch or why aren't you out doing it? Because I don't want to.
Right. Because this is what I feel I need right
Yes.
now. You know, another thing that comes with healing is better boundaries. You start creating better boundaries. And that's with everybody in your life.
Yeah, that you have to. And I think a lot of times we allow our boundaries to be pushed.
Yep.
Or we don't even know what they are.
Yes, that's the worst part when you don't. Honestly, that's the when you don't even know what your boundaries are.
Yeah.
That's when you need to say, okay, like where is my self-esteem right now? Because usually when you don't have good boundaries or any boundaries, there is a level of you need to start looking at your self-worth. How do you view yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you don't know your boundaries, your likes, your dislikes, if you don't know yourself in general, I would say, like, I still am going to take my eat, pray, love moment to go find my true self. If you
Oh my God, I think I'm coming with you. I'm not kidding. That movie's like a breath of fresh air every time I watch it.
Because it goes through
That touches my soul.
It does. My dream is to get to Bali because
Well, I'm coming with
I
you.
know. We're going.
Maybe we'll do a
We'll do a
podcast
show
in
from
Bali.
or Eat, Pray, Love podcast. It'll be
Yes.
a series because
Oh my
honest to
gosh.
God, like I think
Be incredible.
we all need that.
We do.
You need that getting to know yourself and what you like and what you go dislike. Did I ever tell you the black coffee story? I think
Oh, I love this
like,
story. You have to. I love this story.
I hate black coffee. I hate it. I'll never like it. I think it's disgusting. I will never, ever like it. But the guy that I was seeing at the time, that's all he drank was black coffee. And for some reason, I was so afraid to say that when he served me coffee and I was waiting for my creamer sugar, but there wasn't any. And
He didn't ask.
he didn't ask. He was here. He handed me and so I was too afraid because I'm like, I don't want to disappoint this man. I don't want to like tell him that I don't like the coffee he just served me, even though I wanted to gag. I drank black coffee for so long because I didn't want to lose this relationship by telling him I didn't like black coffee. So I did get to the point where I'm like, one day I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And then he goes, do what? I'm like, drink black coffee. I can't do it. I hate it.
But that is huge because that is where it starts. It starts with black coffee, which is something small, but it becomes then bigger things. So I'm going to assume in that relationship, your boundaries were pushed in other ways too that probably meant something that then really became a problem.
Yes. That what meant like it became everything. All aspects of my life were not what I wanted, not what I liked, not what I was comfortable with, but whatever this person liked, did, and wanted, I felt I had to keep up with and do. And it all became, I was mimicking this person, which I don't think they wanted to date themselves, which is exactly who I was becoming. No wonder it didn't work out. But that's what happens.
I have to say something though. And again, this does come back to you being like, hey, I don't like black coffee. But I also think that's strange. He never asked, like, hey, how do you like your coffee? Because again, and this is all of us, when dating, it is also important to step back and see, like, is that person caring? Are they accepting of who you are? And it's interesting, he never even asked you, hey, how do you like your coffee?
Yeah. Just a simple
assumed you were going to drink it the way he drank it.
Yeah. Which then became the narration of our entire relationship. Everything was an assumption of, well, this is how I like it and want it, so this is how you're going to like it and want it. And I was fine.
Interesting, though, that things were then built on the black coffee story.
But I mean, that's with the black coffee.
That's funny, but that was almost like a glimpse into what was to come.
But do you know, I remember sitting there. I remember it plain as day. I remember sitting at the counter, and I remember him walking over with the coffee, putting it in front of me, and I was like, again, I was waiting. I was waiting for the cream or sugar offer.
Hey, do you use cream or do you use...
And I remember being like, the fear of having to speak up was noticeable to me. And then again, like you said, he didn't even ask how I wanted my coffee.
Right.
It was my inner intuition and voice right in that moment that was saying, this isn't okay
Right.
and how you're
Right.
feeling isn't okay over black coffee, but it was so subtle and so small that I
What would have been very interesting if you would have said, "Oh, you know what? I take cream and sugar in my coffee." If he had an annoyed look, that would be a red flag. I mean, obviously we
I
don't know that.
guarantee you he
That
would have had
would
an
have
annoyed
been
look.
red flag because if they would be annoyed over something small like that, like look out.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. And I wish, like, again, I wish I had said something. I wish throughout that I would have started to voice my, just that's not me, but I like to do it this way.
Right.
It's not, I don't want to do that. This is me. Because I feel like I would have, there's part of me that feels like there would have been respect established. And
Right.
because I didn't set those boundaries, there was a lack of respect. And I can't blame somebody for that.
Right.
I
Right.
invited them to dictate my life.
But it's great that you took a hard look at it and
Yeah.
saw your blind spots.
Yeah.
You're not being authentically
Yeah.
you, unapologetically you, if you will.
I was very unapologetic.
You're not going to really find your person.
Yeah, you're not, and they're
And
not.
you're going to be living a life that's not real. Again, behind the mask.
And how unfair is it to that? And in fairness to my exes, I didn't do you any favors
Right.
either because
right.
you thought you were dating somebody that you weren't. Because I wasn't out with what my likes were, what my
Right.
boundaries were. So
Right.
that's not fair then to get further into a relationship and decide then you're gonna change and all of a sudden
That's a hard thing to do.
it started with black coffee, it ended with cream and sugar.
Well, at least it ended with a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So no, but it brought you to where you are now. Again, it's, I guess, taking that pain
Yes.
and looking at it.
Yes. Yeah. And being accountable for,
Yes.
my part in it, but then understanding like I can tell people what I like and what I don't like. And if they
Absolutely.
that's a blessing.
Right. Right. And to go back, way back, like we had talked about in the beginning, how things start from our childhood. As a child, and I'm talking to everybody, did you feel safe saying what you like, what you didn't like? Did you feel safe showing your emotions?
Nope.
So ask yourself that. And if the answers are no, well, then maybe that's why today, in your relationships, in your career, in your life, you have a hard time with really showing who you truly are.
Do you remember the saying that I know my parents use it a lot, you're to be seen and not heard? Do you remember, did you ever hear of that as a
Yes.
child?
Yes.
To be seen and not heard.
Which is so false, right?
Right. Imagine having that belief.
Because that's an
growing up.
old school
That's an
belief.
old school belief. And so bringing
Like
that
yesteryear.
into relationship.
No, truly though, I can't imagine
Yes.
using that line,
Yes,
right?
I could never tell. Like, yes. So, but imagine that's how what you're told, and then imagine then expressing anything outside of what your parents told you, because our parents were a lot stricter back then too, right? So there were consequences if you voiced any different than
It was a different time.
It's a different time.
Yes.
it was a very different time. So again, with us and our generation, I think there's a lot of that. And for me, there was a lot of, and to be seen and not heard, like me being heard.
And you carried that. You
Carried
literally somehow as a kid became your story
yes,
in a way.
it became a story. And it also became of saying something differently than what the person expected. There was a negative consequence to that. So that is what again, not realizing that because I didn't really want to understand that.
Right.
Now I'm like, oh shit, like this really did start. I'm not blaming my parents because
No,
Their
because
parents
again,
raised
they
them a
know
certain way.
what they know. We're going to be wrapping this
yeah.
up.
yes. Oh, your black coffee story. I want to know your level of fuckery.
Yeah. Where do you fall?
I want to know, we want to know your moments of, the mic drop with somebody
Absolutely.
from a book. Like,
And you're going to be hearing many more
Yeah.
stories.
yes. And then we also want to know, what do you want to hear from us? What
Yes. What kind of
questions?
show,
and-
topics?
Yeah. And even if you don't like what we said, we're unapologetic about it. No, but, like,
Absolutely.
we
I
wanna
mean,
know. Like, again, because
the one thing you're going to get from us
Yeah.
is we're real and raw, and these are different.
journeys are different.
But at the same time, it comes down to we're on a journey of really living authentically.
Yes. Yeah. authentically our authentic healing journey. We're very unapologetic about it.
If you have a story you'd like to share, or if there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover on the podcast, we'd love to hear your ideas.
Get in touch with us through email or our social media pages, links below.